Hello and welcome to Travel Smart Seniors. And if you have taken a Viking cruise or going to from Budapest, you should be there for a day or more at least so you can see some of the other sites that are there. There's just too much to do in 1 or 2 days. So I'm going to explore some things that you can do, such as visit the Central Market, go to the Dohány Street Synagogue, see St. Stephens Cathedral, visit the Opera House, and we'll show you the hotel we stayed in. We'll take a visit to the Thermal Baths and also stop by a castle nearby. And we'll wrap the whole thing up by visiting Budapest by night. So number one is a tour to the Grand Market, and this is an optional excursion on the cruise itself, but the market is so close to the ship that it's easily done on your own. So here is the Viking docks, and as we turn around, you can see the market itself across the road. Now, the lens is a little foggy, so I apologize for that. Here's another look from the drone, and you also can get a good look at the very good transit system that the city has. The Central Market Hall is a marketplace that really offers a glimpse into Hungarian culture and cuisine. It was built in 1897 in the neo-Gothic design. Inside, you can find things such as fresh produce, meats, cheeses, spices, and other local delicacies, including paprika. The ground floor is a foodie's paradise, and you can get just about anything and stop and have a snack. It especially has a lot of fruits and vegetables, jars of pickled vegetables, and the Hungarian specialty paprika. The upper floor consists mainly of gifts and handicrafts, and if you're so inclined, there are restaurants up there, and it's good to sit down and have a bite of authentic Hungarian cuisine. So now it's time to go check into our hotel. You get it? And before we do, I want to explain just a little bit about the transit system in Budapest. The metro itself is very, very good and comprehensive. It is very deep underground, and some of the cars are very modern, but there is a throwback line that has some very vintage cars that are just delightful, and those are the ones that go up to Hero Square. Our hotel was just up on Andrade Street, very near the Opera House. As a matter of fact, it was on a back alley of the Opera House. Fortunately, there was a metro stop right in front of the Opera House, so we just had to go down the side alley on the right side to get to our hotel. It was nice because we were on Andrade Street, and it's just a beautiful tree-lined street to walk up and down. We stayed in the K&K Hotel Opera, and K&K is a hotel chain that has beautiful properties in Budapest, Czech Republic, and Germany and Austria. The continental breakfast was great and included Hungarian specialties such as paprika and their version of prosciutto. Now, I did say we were staying by the Opera House, and as we walked back out, we saw that Mozart's Die Zauberflöte was playing that night, and it was in Hungarian. So we had to go into the lobby and get tickets for that night, and it's a gorgeous place, and I will show you the inside of the Opera House in a bit. Another optional tour offered by Viking is a visit to the Dohány Street Synagogue in Jewish Budapest. This is also something that you can do on your own. This isn't too far from the river, and it probably could be walked, but there is a very convenient metro stop right on Caroly Street near the synagogue itself. And if you're so inclined and want a bird's-eye view of the city, Elizabeth Square is just across the street with its Ferris wheel. The synagogue is just off Caroly Street, and it's very easy to see from the main drag. It stands out. This imposing synagogue is the largest in Europe and second largest in the world, and as with Jewish custom, the facade faces east towards Jerusalem. It was built in 1859 by a Viennese architect, and the place is huge and seats 3,000 people. There are roughly 1,500 seats for the men downstairs and 1,500 seats in the galleries for the women upstairs. And I was really impressed with the artwork, the woodwork, and all the decorations that are just unbelievable. Just take a look at the richness of the interior as we turn around and pay particular attention to the wood. I think it's just absolutely outstanding. Another room in the synagogue is the Heroes Temple, and it was built in 1931 and commemorates the 10,000 Hungarian Jewish soldiers who died during World War I. This is the most somber aspect of the synagogue, and it's a cemetery in the yard, and it's not usual in Jewish customs to situate cemeteries next to synagogues. But when the ghetto was liberated in 1945, thousands of dead Jews were in the streets. 1,100 known and 1,100 unknown martyrs are buried in the 24 common graves in the yard of the synagogue. On the synagogue's north side is the Tree of Life Memorial, which was built in 1991 and was paid for by the actor Tony Curtis for his Hungarian-born father. The tree stands over the mass grave of those murdered by the Nazis in World War II, and the leaves are inscribed with some of the victims' names. I found the mixture of the elegance of the synagogue combined with some of the modern architecture here in Budapest to be interesting. The Dohány Street Synagogue is a companion to the Dohány Street Synagogue. It was rebuilt in 1921 and serves now as a concert hall and a museum. St. Stephen's Basilica is not too far away from the synagogues. As a matter of fact, it's really close to the Rambach Synagogue. The basilica itself is an imposing structure, but there's a very interesting square right in front of the basilica, and it extends all the way down to the Danube. There are lots of places to eat and just people watch along the square. The basilica is fairly new, having been finished in neoclassical style in 1905. It has a Greek cross shape and a very opulent interior. This view gives you a good idea of the size of the church. It's about 300 feet long and 180 feet wide. The basilica is named in honor of St. Stephen, the first king of Hungary, who's considered the founder of the Hungarian state and who was canonized as a saint. The dome itself is quite impressive, and if you feel so inclined, you can climb the 365 steps to the top of the dome and get a great view of the city. The height of the church is capped at 96 meters, along with that of the Hungarian Parliament, and that is in recognition of the fact that the Hungarian state was founded in 896. The church houses numerous concerts as well, including Sunday services with the choir and a beautiful organ in the back. One of the significant religious artifacts of the church is the mummified right hand of St. Stephen himself, and it's contained in this reliquary here. Nearby is the harvest wreath, which is celebrated on August 20th, St. Stephen's Day, and the founding of the Hungarian Empire. It represents the bounty of the land, and it is made entirely of wheat. The sign next to the wreath is calling on Hungarian farmers to donate part of their wheat crop so that bread can be made for those less fortunate. Our next stop takes us up to the Budapest Thermal Baths, but there are several other things that we can see while we're up here. The Viking bus tour takes you up Andrassy Boulevard, where it ends at Heroes Square, but you don't have a chance to get out, so this was our chance to actually get out and walk along the square. On the left side is the Museum of Fine Arts, and on the right side is the Contemporary Museum, so those are also worthwhile stops. At the center of Heroes Square is the Millennium Monument, which is a tall column topped with the Archangel Gabriel, and he is surrounded at the base of the column with the statues of the 7 chieftains of the Magyars who led the Hungarian tribes in 1896. In front of the column is the memorial stone which says in memory of the heroes for all those who have given their lives for Hungary. The colonnades behind the column contain statues of significant historical figures from Hungarian history, including kings, governors, and national leaders. So now it's just a short walk up between these colonnades to the thermal baths. What we see in the distance is a balloon, and we've seen it before. I wonder what that is. Well, this is not a hot air balloon, but it's helium-filled, and you can take a ride on it for about 15 minutes. The gondola is huge and can hold around 30 people at a time, and it's right here in the park near the bath. The thermal baths, and I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce the name, are one of the largest and most famous spa complexes in Europe. You can purchase tickets for a full day, half day, or just a few hours, and they include additional services like massages. If you don't have swimwear, not to worry, you can actually rent it, and there are lockers and even private rooms available if you wish. You should probably try and get your tickets in advance, as the wait can be quite long. And here's this guy. He's been in line forever, it seems. The architecture is a highlight, with grand arches, statues, and ornate details that create a really majestic atmosphere, and the spas are open year-round. It's particularly interesting in the winter with the steam rising off the water. The baths were opened in 1913, and the baths are fed by two natural thermal springs. The water temperatures range between 165 degrees and 171 degrees. The water is rich in minerals like calcium, magnesium, which are believed to have therapeutic benefits. There are three large outdoor pools. The one on the left is a thermal pool. It's a warm pool with temperatures of around 100 degrees. The center is the swimming pool, a cooler pool, primarily for lap swimming. And then on the right is an adventure pool, which has water jets, a whirlpool, and other fun elements, and you can see the people swirling around inside. The complex also includes saunas, steam rooms, and wellness areas, and each offers different levels of heat and humidity. There's also a beer spa, which offers a unique and fun experience. It's an interactive spa where guests soak in the warm tub filled with a mixture of thermal water and natural ingredients used in beer brewing, such as hops, malt, yeast, and barley. And while soaking, you can also pour yourself unlimited craft beer directly from the taps next to the tub. There's so much to do around Hero Square that it would be hard to make a choice. We saw the baths, and now we're going to go take a look at the castle. And again, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce the name. Here you can see how close we are to Hero Square, and then there's this great big lake and a place where you can rent paddle boats and sail up and down the lake. And all the while, you're very close to the castle itself. The castle was built in 1896 as part of the Millennial Exhibition, which celebrated the 1,000 Years of Hungary. It was originally built of cardboard and wood, but it became so popular it was rebuilt from stone and brick between 1904 and 1908. The castle displays different architectural style because it contains parts of building from various time periods, all from landmark buildings in the Kingdom of Hungary. There's also an open-air market in the courtyard where you can get food and also take a look at these finely decorated melons from this one stand. There are a variety of other vendors here, including this one where you can get a bite to eat and also get some Hungarian paprika, which seems to be plentiful. And as we leave and look at the outside wall of the castle, we see a statue of Bela Lugosi, who was immortalized here for his 1931 portrayal of Count Dracula. Well, it is evening, and we need to get a bite to eat before I use those opera tickets for Die Fledermaus. But before the opera, we need a bite to eat, and we go to the Callis House, which is right next door to the opera and is an absolutely delightful place, and we were able to get some Hungarian goulash and a beer, and I got some Wiener Schnitzel because I still like Wiener Schnitzel. The opera is exceptionally elegant at night and also on Andrassy Boulevard, and it is also right across the street from the very elegant hotel called the W Budapest. As we entered the lobby, we looked around and discovered that we, for the most part, might have been a little bit overdressed. The Opera House was inaugurated in 1884, and it was commissioned by Emperor Franz Joseph I of Austria-Hungarian Empire. The interior is quite opulent and has marble staircases, frescoes, gilded decorations, and very luxurious chandeliers. The horseshoe-shaped auditorium is celebrated for its beauty, but also for its exceptional acoustics, ranking among the best opera houses in the world for sound quality. And the ceiling has a fresco which depicts the gods on Mount Olympus. Now, we saw a production of Mozart's Magic Flute, Die Zauberflöte, but it was done entirely in Hungarian, which was quite nice. You don't need to spend a lot of money to see the production, as there are standing places as well that are very inexpensive. But you can also tour the opera house on a guided tour, and you don't have to take in a production at all. We finish our little tour by going across the Danube to get a view of Budapest at night, and it is truly spectacular. We, along with a bunch of other folks, set up on the walkway across the river from the Parliament building. It was the perfect place from which we could launch the drone and get some aerial views of the Parliament, the Danube, and the castles on the hill behind us. The Parliament building is an iconic symbol of Hungary and is used frequently in the Viking advertising. It was built in 1902 and is one of the largest and most beautiful Parliament buildings in the world, and it was built in the neo-Gothic style. If you have time, you should try and tour the interior of the Parliament building. It's supposed to be quite nice. As we turn, you can see the Ferris wheel of Elizabeth Square on the left, and in front of us is the Chain Bridge. The Chain Bridge is one of Budapest's most famous landmarks, and it's a symbol of the city. It was completed in 1849, and it was the first permanent bridge to connect Buda on one side and Pest on the other side of the Danube River. It played a vital role in the unification of Budapest and Óbuda into a single city in 1873. We now get a look at Buda Castle and the hills of Buda behind it at sunset. Historically, Buda Castle served as the residence of Hungarian kings. Now the castle houses several museums, including the Budapest History Museum and the Hungarian National Gallery. It's worthwhile to go up there and actually take a tour. We did not do that, but it is something else you can do while you're here. Now, as we turn back toward Pest, you can see the Elizabeth Square Ferris wheel and a good view of St. Stephens Cathedral. Now, turning back across the river, looking back to Buda, we see the Fisherman's Bastion and St. Matthias Church on the hill above. That's all considered part of the castle complex for Buda Castle. A visit to the Fisherman's Bastion and Matthias Church were included as part of the panoramic tour of Budapest, the standard tour. No matter where you look in Budapest at night, everything is absolutely gorgeous. This happens to be right where we were flying from, and it's the St. Anne's Church. So as we get ready to wind up and bring the drone in for a landing, it's time to get packed up and head to the train station the next morning for a little excursion, and we're going to take the train to Czech Republic, to the second largest city, and that is Brno. I do hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, I'd sure appreciate it if you subscribed to our channel, as it helps us out a lot. Thanks.